Gimenez for his 5 minutes questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Borelli, how many migrants are there now in New York City, newly arrived migrants, due to the border crisis?
In our care, about 62,000 that have come since the crisis began, about 125,000.
And when the number that you gave that it's going to cost New York City, what's that based on? What number is that based on?
That's based on the accumulation of various services that are offered, everything from housing.
Not the services, the number of people. How many people are you talking about?
That is what the Mayor Adams administration is estimating based on the number of people that are disembarking at bus terminals, Port Authority bus terminal, or that present themselves at migrant intake shelters.
Okay, so, but there's a number attached to that. And what's that number?
125,000 overall.
125,000, and how much is the cost?
383 per person per day.
Which is how much per year?
To be clear, some of those people have transitioned out of shelters, but the cost per year next year will be about 6.1 to 6.5 billion.
$6.1 billion.
Correct.
For 125,000 people? A steady number of 125,000 people?
Correct.
All right, so that would be, it's a pretty significant amount. And when you multiply that, let's say that amount by 5 million people, and I'm being generous, is to cross the border, we're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of well over about $170 billion. If you multiply that out throughout the United States, that's the cost right now of this crisis. That's a pretty significant amount that's coming out of U.S. taxpayer money. So, Mr. Melnick, you said that you had the experience of this, the father that was separated from his children, and that is a tragedy. I think they had like 5,000 families that were separated, during the Trump years, mainly because they're legally you can't incarcerate or hold minors in the same place where you're holding adults. But what do you think is worse, that or the fact that this administration has the faintest idea where 85,000 children are?
Congressman, I don't think there's anything that can be worse than taking a child from the arms of their parent, quite honestly.
Okay, and so the fact that their parent doesn't even know where their child is right now. I mean, there's 85,000 of them that nobody knows where they are.
That's actually not necessarily true. I think it is important to note that the 85,000 are simply people that the Office of Refugee Resettlement has not had contact with. They actually may be living with their parents. We know that in a lot of circumstances they are. So I think there's some confusion around that number. I don't think it's fair to say that it's 85,000 people who are missing from their parents.
But you can't say that. No, there's 85,000 people, 85,000 children that the U.S. government hasn't the faintest idea where they are. Is that an accurate statement?
The Office of Refugee Resettlement, unclear again. These may be people that may be going to school. We just don't know. And I agree it's something that should be investigated and we should have better controls on it. But I don't think it's fair to say that these are missing children.
Oh no, they're missing. They're missing. They're absolutely missing because we don't know where they are. And you can't tell me for sure that they're not in the arms of some sex trafficker, can you?
I think that is
or an exploiter.
Likely.
You can't say that for sure, can you?
No, the Office of Refugee Resettlement has not had contact with those parents or their sponsors, but again, that does not mean that they are missing. They may be actively involved in their local communities. Local governments may know where they are, but the Office of Refugee Resettlement hasn't been able to have contact with their sponsors.
That's great spin, man. I appreciate your spin, okay? But the fact is that they can't be found, all right? No, they can't be found. And we know that the cartels are heavily involved in human trafficking and heavily involved in trafficking children. And if you saw the movie, I guess The Sound of Freedom, you would see what's really going on with the Mexican cartels and what they're doing to children. Because there's a market here, unfortunately, for that kind of thing. And so, I've got 25 seconds left. This crisis has been caused by the Biden administration, no doubt. And the problem with the Biden administration is that, hey, maybe they wanted to try a new policy that would solve the problem, but obviously what they've tried has failed. And this administration continues to pursue the same policy, the same failed policies that has seen our border be overrun and totally out of control during this time where we have well over 5 million migrants have rushed through. And by the way, in terms of their time to get a court date, anybody know how long, what's the average time to get a court date now for a migrant coming through?
We have seen people with 20, 33 court dates, meaning the lawyers are probably at Little League tonight. That'll be their attorney in that case in 10 years.
Thank you.
Gentleman yields.